Hello to all my beautiful students. I miss you guys. I have another lesson for you on how to find the volume of a sphere. So today we're going to go through some notes and some examples. Again, you will need your calculator and a piece of paper and a pencil. So first, let's start at the top of the page with our notes. It says, a sphere fills blank of a cylinder. So if I was to draw a cylinder, remember we learned about the volume of a cylinder earlier this week. So if I had a cylinder, again, don't mind my drawings, and I took a sphere with the same radius and I put it inside of this cylinder, it would take up 2/3 the amount of space. Now I'm really bummed I had a great visual for you guys with water and spheres and cones and cylinders to demonstrate this for you guys. I'm going to post a video for you guys to watch so that you can kind of understand. Again, this goes into how these formulas were created and why they work. So where does that information come from in the formulas? So let's get started. So again, we just talked about a sphere fills 2/3 of a cylinder. Look at the video that I post so that you guys can see that. The radius of a sphere is the distance from the center to any point on the sphere. So from the center to any point. So this is the radius. I could draw a line here. That's the radius. This is a radius. It's all going to be the same distance from the center point to the edge. The height of the sphere is twice the radius. So twice the radius is our diameter. So this kind of explains a little bit about why this is the formula for the volume of a sphere. So I wanted to show this to you guys so that you can understand a little bit more, because if you understand it, then remembering these formulas is not going to be so difficult if you understand where it comes from. To find the formula for the volume of a sphere, you multiply 2/3 times pi r squared by 2 times the radius, because the height is twice the radius. So if we take this right here, and again the 2/3 comes from, it only takes up 2/3 of a cylinder. So if we do 2/3 pi r squared times twice the radius. If we just kind of break that out and do it piece by piece, if we do our radiuses, so we have r squared times r. Remember, there's an invisible 1 here. So when we're multiplying with exponents, we have to add those exponents. So 2 plus 1 is 3. So this is r cubed. Now if I multiply my numbers, 2/3 times 2, well, I'm just going to do that over here. 2/3 times 2 over 1. That gives me 4/3. And then pi stays the same. So it's 4/3 pi r cubed. This right here is the formula for the volume of a sphere. Volume equals 4/3 pi r cubed. So a couple different things about this formula. Our radius is cubed, not squared. That's different than what we've been doing. Our fraction that we're multiplying this by is 4/3, and I just showed you how we got that. So it helps if you understand where the formulas come from, because you're not going to be given these formulas on tests to be able to find the volume of cylinders, cones, and spheres, so you need to know what one to use. So now that we have our formula, we're going to use our formula to find the volume of different spheres. Now we should be getting really good with substituting values in. Here we just need a radius and then we can find the volume of our sphere. So again, if we look at our visual here, we can see that this line only goes to the center point. So we know that that's our radius. The radius is 2.1 centimeters. So I have everything I need to be able to plug the radius into this formula and find the volume of this sphere. So I'm going to write out my formula. Volume equals 4/3 times pi and the radius cubed. Very important you remember that this is cubed, not squared. Most common mistake is probably right there. All right, substitute our value in. We know what the radius is. The radius is 2.1, and this is cubed. So now I'm going to use my calculator. I need to substitute in 2.1 cubed. So I'm going to write 2.1. And then in order to cube this number, I'm going to hit this button right up here. This allows me to pick any exponent. So I'm going to hit it, and my exponent is 3, and hit equal. So 2.1 cubed is this. I'm going to do that again for you guys. 2.1, hit this button, and then pick your exponent. The exponent is 3. Now I'm going to multiply that by 4/3 times 4 fraction button 3. And this is our decimal. This is the approximate volume of this sphere. Now our directions said to round to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to look at the tens place. Tens place is right here, right after the decimal. Look to the neighbor to the right. 5 or more, add 1 more. 4 or less, let it rest. So this is a 4. That means I don't need to change this 3. The volume of this sphere is approximately 12.3 centimeters cubed. Cubed because we're talking about volume. All right, sliding on over to our next example here. Again, we need our radius in order to substitute it into our formula and find the volume. Looking here, this only goes halfway, so I know it's my radius. So our radius is 1 inch. Write out your formula, substitute the value into the formula. So you're gonna substitute what R is into this formula. R is 1, plug 1 in for R. Volume equals 4/3 times pi, and then that's 1 cubed. Okay, we can use our calculator here. This one's easy. 1, hit this button right here. Our exponent is 3, and we get 1, because 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. Then we're going to multiply that by 4/3. Again, that one's easy. Times 4 fraction button 3, and we get 4/3, or 1 1/3. Then we are going to multiply this number by 3.14. It told us to use 3.14 for pi. So times 3.14. And we get this big long number. That's okay though, because we need to round it to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to look at my tens place. It's a 1. Look to the neighbor to the right to see if I need to add 1 more or let it rest. 5 or more, add 1 more. So that means that I'm going to add 1 more to this tens place. 1 plus 1 is 2. Volume is approximately 4.2 inches cubed, or cubic inches. All right, our next one, when we're identifying our radius, if we look at this, the line goes all the way across. So that means it makes a D, D for diameter. If you look at that, you can see it kind of makes a D. So I need to divide my radius by 2. 7 divided by 2. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. So the radius, half of that, is 3.5. Write out the formula. Don't forget, it's cubed, radius cubed. Substitute the radius into the formula. And then we're going to use our calculator. Gonna do 3.5. Hit this button so that we can cube it. Cubed. We get a decimal. I'm gonna go ahead and multiply by 4/3. So times 4, fraction button 3. I get this big long decimal. Now I'm gonna multiply that by 3.14 for pi times 3.14 for pi. And I get another big long decimal that we need to round. Remember, we're rounding to the nearest tenth. So I'm gonna look at my tens place. It's a 5. Look to the neighbor to the right. Remember, 5 or more, add 1 more. 4 or less, let it rest. So this number right here tells me that 5 is gonna stay the same. So the volume is approximately 179.5 cubic centimeters or centimeters cubed. Pause the video, try this one on your own. Be careful to not make any of those common mistakes, and then check back with me. We need the radius. We were not given the radius, we were given the diameter because this line goes all the way across. So I need to divide this by 2 to find out what the radius is. That gives me 10. So half of this is 10. This is 10 and this is 10, which makes the entire thing 20. Write out your formula. If you do this, you won't forget anything, and it'll help you remember the formula. Substitute the value in for R. And then we're gonna get our calculator out, use that calculator. So 10 cubed, 10, hit this button here, and it's cubed, so I'm picking 3. Hit the equal sign. Now we're gonna multiply that number by our fraction, 4/3. Times 3.14. Oops, I think I did that wrong. Let's double check that. Looked a little weird. So 10 cubed times 4/3. Yeah, I did. I typed something in wrong. Then we're going to multiply that by 3.14. That looks better. And we need to round to the nearest tenth. So that's the tens place. Look to the neighbor to the right. That tells me I need to add 1 more to the tens place. So we have 4,186.7 centimeters cubed. Now, I'm kind of glad that I typed that in wrong because it's really important to remember to I always try to tell you guys to type it into your calculator twice. Especially do that until you're really fluent with using the calculator. Because if you make a mistake, you could have thought that you had the answer and then you would have got it wrong just for simply hitting something wrong. And it happens to me too. So I highly recommend do it once, go back, type everything again, and make sure you get the same thing. All right, last 2 word problems, but we follow the same steps. A sphere has a diameter of 3.4 meters. Find the volume of the sphere to the nearest hundredth. So hundredth is 2 decimal places. So if you need to, you can write a 2 there so you know it's 2 decimal places. We need to find the radius. So we need to divide our diameter by 2. We only need half that. So 3.4 divided by 2 is 1.7. Now I have everything I need to plug into my formula. Volume equals 4/3 times pi r cubed. Don't forget it's cubed. Volume equals 4/3 times pi. Plug in the radius and cube it. Now get that calculator out and start typing things in. 1.7 cubed times 4/3 times 3.14 for pi gives us this decimal. We're going to round to the nearest hundredths. So that's 2 decimal places. So we're looking at this 6, that's our hundredths place. We look to the neighbor to the right, 5 or more, add 1 more. So we need to add 1 more to 6. So it rounds up, it needs to become a 7. The volume is approximately 20.57. Our units is meters cubed. Now, just like I said before, I'm going to type that in again. Make sure I typed everything in correctly. I encourage you to do that with me. And I got the same answer. So I'm good. Last problem, pause the video, try it on your own, then check back with me. The sphere has a radius of 10 centimeters. Find the volume of the sphere to the nearest hundredth. So it told me the radius is 10. I need the radius. I don't need to do anything to it. It already gave it to me. So the radius is 10. A common mistake here would be some people would go, oh, I need to divide that by 2 because we just did it for the last problem. No. If it gives you the radius, you have your radius, you're done. All right, now we're going to write our formula out. Substitute the radius in. We have 10 cubed times 4/3 times pi, 3.14 for pi. And this is our decimal here. So the volume of the sphere is approximately 4,186 we need to make sure we round to the nearest tenth, or round to the hundredths place. So if I look here, this is the hundredths place. I look to the neighbor to the right. 5 or more, you add 1 more. So I need to add 1 more to 6, which makes it a 7. So it's 6.7 centimeters cubed. Don't forget your units. And we're done. To double check that, enter it in again if you want to make sure you didn't make any silly little mistakes on your calculator. And we still got the same thing. Okay, so here, really important, guys, volume is 4/3 pi times r cubed. So 4/3 is the fraction, and when we're finding the volume of a sphere, it is cubed, not squared. Be careful of that. Don't make any of those silly little mistakes. Practice, practice, practice. I will talk to you guys again soon. View this video again if you need any more help with it. Bye.